Hello everybody, welcome to our Facebook study. Our group was Veronica, Ryan, Patricia, and Emily. This is Ryan speaking. Our proposal for our portfolio was that our group wanted to study Facebook users this semester. Our purpose was threefold. The first was to discover what each user's individual goals were with regard to social communication. The second was to learn the habits of users as they achieve their goals. And the third was to identify what can be improved to facilitate the completion of user goals. Our researchable questions were the following. How does Facebook support a user's social communication goals, and what prompts a user to communicate with people on Facebook over other forms of communication or social media? In terms of that first question, we broke it down into 3 subset questions. So, how long does the average user spend each week on the site to achieve the goal? What are the usability differences between the computer and app designs? And what are users dissatisfied with?
Hi everyone, I'm Veronica Lathram, and for my contribution to our user study, I opted to lead in my group's contextual inquiry. I'm just going to provide the class with a basic overview of my process for conducting the study. A contextual inquiry, as you know, is utilized as a means of observation in the field. It differs from a user study because it relies on direct observation of the users as they interact with the chosen interface rather than relying on user reactions to questions. In this case, our chosen interface was Facebook. For this assignment, our contextual inquiry necessitated the observation of 2 users. For the sake of this presentation and the eventual interpretation of the data I collected, these anonymous users will be referred to as user 1 and user 2. The first thing that I wanted to take into consideration before even conducting the contextual inquiry was the environment. Our textbook states that the environment is crucial to the success of a contextual inquiry because you want the user that you are observing to feel comfortable, unaffected by their surroundings, and you also want them not to be distracted by what's going on around them. Because our group and actually our whole class was taking in user-related data from an interface that already exists, rather than working to develop a new interface or working to improve one. And we wanted to observe how these users typically interact with Facebook. I decided to meet each user in an environment they were comfortable in, and an environment in which they may typically check their Facebook page already. For user 1, that was a desk in their home office, and for user 2, it was a study table at their local library. So after establishing a comfortable test environment, I actually wanted to create a process for my observation. I based the criteria for my observation off of the 4 types of information highlighted in our textbook, Observing the User Experience. These criteria are credited to Bayer and Holtzblatt. They include the tools the user uses. In this case, I took into consideration internal tools within Facebook, such as chat, search, event pages, blocking, privacy, commenting, liking, anything of that nature. But I also wanted to take into consideration external tools. How are they accessing Facebook? Do they use a computer? Do they use a cell phone? Do they use a tablet? Do they ever transfer information from Facebook onto paper? Or do they take notes in some manner? The next criteria is the sequences in which actions occur. I wanted to pay attention to how the users check their Facebook page. What do they check first? How do they scroll through information? Do they have a process, or do they just randomly click and react to whatever catches their attention? The third criteria revolves around methods of organization. In this instance, I considered, do they organize their friends into different groups? Do they publish or keep track of their movies, books, TV shows? Do they use Facebook to mark event pages, things of that nature? And the final criteria is what kinds of interactions do the users have while using Facebook? Do they chat? Do they comment? Do they block? Do they report users? Do they send friend requests? Is the poke feature ever used anymore? Things like that. So as you can see, it was really easy for me to take these 4 concepts and apply them to Facebook and its users in terms of what users use Facebook for, how they navigate the site, the various tasks they may complete or seek to learn, and also how they access their page using different technologies. So after I established my process for observing the users, came the actual session and the creation of my transcripts. So during the sessions, I kept detailed and sequential notes of how the users went about checking, using, and interacting with their Facebook page. The sessions lasted roughly 30 minutes as dictated by our project prompt, and my notes were turned into a transcript that was punctuated not only with my notes that I took regarding the actual observations of the users, but also my interpretations from throughout the course of the sessions. Though our textbook advises against it in a formal setting, at the end of each session I did ask some clarifying questions if I found that users did something unusual or unique. This was also suggested in our project prompt found in our syllabus, and I felt that it was an appropriate means to conclude the sessions and just to really understand why the user chose to do something in a certain capacity. And that's it. Thank you.
Our usability test consisted of 4 different tasks. The first task was for users to post a comment on a friend's Facebook timeline. The second task, users had to edit a comment on a friend's Facebook timeline. For the third task, users had to find and join a public event on Facebook. And the fourth task consisted of users creating a public group for anyone to join on Facebook. As you can see from the results graph, the different users took varying amounts of time for the different tasks, with user 1 and user 2 completing more tasks at expert level than user 3. User 1 and user 2 were younger and more targeted audience and than user 3 was, which was the older over 55 user group. So these results were expected, but user 2 performed the most amount of tasks at expert level. As you can see in the next slide, these are just some sample observation notes recorded during the usability test, just explaining some of the different things that the user said as they performed the tasks and the observations that I witnessed them doing as they performed the tasks. So after the usability test was performed, a few key points emerged, most notably that most users had difficulty finding a public Facebook event in their area related to bike riding, and this feature could definitely be more intuitive and easier for our users to accomplish on Facebook. We also learned that all users found it very easy and straightforward to create a Facebook group, which is great. And then we also learned that all users had a fairly easy time posting and editing comments to others' Facebook timelines. They might have a few different ways of going about it, but ultimately users had a pretty straightforward time with this. The only difference that Facebook could implement would be maybe making the edit post drop-down menu with a different color or a different icon than that tiny arrow in the upper right-hand corner.
Personas are model users that the team creates to help understand the goals, motivations, and behaviors of the people who will use the interface or product. The persona represents behavior patterns and helps the designer understand the flow of the user's day and how the interface will fit into it. Personas help developers focus, prioritize, eliminate unneeded options, move forward with future development, and promote better decisions. Today, we will introduce 4 personas: Motivated Maddie, Creative Charlie, Savvy Sharon, and Grandpa George. First, we introduce you to Maddie Motivated Mon. She is on the go and always looking for ways to bring people together who share a passion for similar causes. As a young metropolitan professional, Maddie is always looking for ways to network and get involved. Her father was recently diagnosed with cancer, and Maddie has been motivated to use Facebook to organize bicycle charity fundraisers. She would like Facebook to be an organized catch-all for all of her networking purposes. She would like to see less posts from long ago middle school acquaintances and just updates on her fundraising campaigns and pictures that her friends took at the bike fundraisers that she may be in but not yet tagged in. Maddie is a primary persona for our project because she is an expert user and has been utilizing Facebook tools for many years now and is always looking for new tools and features that it offers to better accommodate her needs. Another primary persona for this project is Creative Charlie. Charlie is a 17-year-old high school senior who has applied to several colleges but is torn between which one is her top choice. Does she want to stay close to home or move closer to her brother in the big city? She hopes that by connecting with the different university social media pages that she can get a better feel for the schools that are farther away, therefore saving her family traveling expenses. Charlie would like to discover alternative scholarships or cost-reducing programs that she could apply for via social media to help her pay for college. Creative Charlie is a primary persona because she is engaged in the platform, using it to publicize her softball team's games and fundraising events. She is learning how to use it professionally. She is an active participant on the platform and generally does not need a lot of guidance and can typically figure out a solution to a problem when stumbling across something frustrating. She is a creative problem solver. Savvy Sharon Smith is a 38-year-old married professional and mother of two. She began using Facebook when she was a stay-at-home mom and continues to use it now at her new job in the healthcare industry. With the world growing quickly around her, she wants to keep on top of technology and keep up with her kids as they prepare to head off to college out of state. An avid reader, Sharon wants to learn how to update Facebook using her Kindle and discover new ways to share with family and friends. Sharon is a secondary persona because while she is eager to learn more and is developing her skill set for this tool in the workplace, she still looks to her kids for help and guidance in some aspects of the platform. And last but not least is George Grandpa Garrison. This 69-year young retired social studies teacher does not care about what you ate for lunch today or how long your commute was. Grandpa George is skeptical of the internet and only has a very basic knowledge of the existence of Facebook or how to turn on a computer for that matter. As much as we adore Grandpa George's quirky antics and bad jokes, utilizing him as a persona for this project would mean he would need a reason to create a Facebook profile, and Grandpa George has no desire to log on. Not all baby boomers or teachers are like Grandpa George. However, we would like to study the social goals of Facebook users, and Grandpa George has no desire to extend his social network or communicate via Facebook. It would be very difficult to obtain unbiased and useful user experience data from Grandpa George, as his letter explaining his reactions would not arrive in the mail for 3 to 5 business days. Due to this circumstance, we are excluding individuals like Grandpa George.
Hi, this is Ryan O'Grady, and my section of the project was on surveys. As the textbook says, the best tool to find out who your users are and what opinions they hold is the survey. So I want to start by just saying that I chose to do more of a descriptive goals survey. My aim here was just to summarize the personal characteristics of the people who I was surveying, what they want out of Facebook, and how they claim to behave. So let's get started. If you notice here, Facebook is not the number one way that people communicate. In fact, out of the 5 surveyed, all 5 said, so 100% said that cell phone and text was the main way, or one of the main ways that they communicate. After that came face-to-face with 4, so that's in-person interaction or communication. And after that was email with 4 as well. Facebook placed at 60% of users, 3 of them, saying that they use Facebook to communicate with other people. Like I said, this was more descriptive, but in analyzing this, it's very clear that Facebook is not the number one way in which the people surveyed communicate. And this led to another interesting finding, which is sort of questioning what social media is. And the only reason why this came up is because out of the 5, 4, at 80%, said that they do not use other social media. So if only 20% said that they use other social media, what are the other 4 doing? Well, it turns out of all those surveyed, 60% use Facebook, 20% use LinkedIn, 20% use Instagram, and 20% use WhatsApp. So what is social media? Do we consider LinkedIn and Instagram and WhatsApp social media? Because across the board, out of these 5 surveyed, there were different people who were indicating that they used LinkedIn, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So the conclusion here is that social media means different things for different people, and that not everybody would consider Facebook even to be a form of social media, much like Instagram, LinkedIn, or WhatsApp. So let's move on to two instances of before and after. In the first, we talked about the knowledge level that those surveyed had of social media. So just to give you a clearer picture here, 1 out of the 5 had never used Facebook before, and 4 had used. So because these were personal friends that I was surveying, I allowed the one person who had never used Facebook before to log on and use it for a little bit. So I have a before and after snapshot. In terms of the other folks, I was asking them to remember before they ever used Facebook, and now, since they use Facebook, after, what's your knowledge level of social media? So it's not surprising. Before anyone had ever used Facebook, the ratings were that 20% thought it was low, 60% thought their knowledge was medium, and 20% thought it was high. And then after using Facebook, the knowledge level of social media skyrocketed 300%, and now 80% consider that they have a high level knowledge of social media. So this was as expected. Knowledge levels of social media increase after you use Facebook. The second before and after was kind of a surprise. And this question asked, before using Facebook, how successful were you in terms of social communication? And after using Facebook, how successful are you in social communication? Surprisingly, those surveyed said that before Facebook, 60% of them felt very successful and 40% felt somewhat successful. After using Facebook, those numbers switched, and 60% said they felt somewhat successful and 40% said they felt very successful. So this was a surprising 33% decrease in social communication success after using Facebook. And the reasons for some of these we'll get into in the comments section of the survey. In the next part of the survey, we asked 3 questions about motivation, connection, and knowledge. In the first question, we asked, as a result of using Facebook, to what level do you get motivated to do something? Now, we used a Likert scale, using 1 to 5, with 6 being NA, so not applicable. So in terms of motivation, 2 users surveyed, that's 40%, said that they were at about a 3. 20% said a 2, and 1 said a 4, so that's 20%. So 80% said that this was applicable, and 20% said it's not applicable. So a conclusion is that 80% feel that Facebook can motivate them to do something. But surprisingly, only 20% rated this as a 4 or 5, so the highest that you could rate. The second question was, as a result of using Facebook, to what level do you make a connection with someone or something? Now you would expect this to be higher, and it is. 60% rated this a 4 or 5. The third question that we used a Likert scale on was, as a result of using Facebook, to what level do you acquire knowledge, information, or understanding? And this was a 100% rating a 4 or a 5, that they acquire knowledge, information, and understanding from using Facebook. So now, on to the Facebook experience and the future for these users who were surveyed. Like I said, this was only one person's first time using Facebook, and everybody else, the other 4, had used it. Interestingly enough, the same person who was their first time said that they do not plan on using Facebook again. So 80% said that they will use Facebook again, and 20% said they wouldn't. And now for the comments. Facebook is fun sometimes, but a waste of time too. I've made some enemies as a result of sharing my personal opinion about many areas in life. Another comment said, not a big fan of Facebook. I find myself wasting time on it. I mostly focus on comedy pages and post pictures for family to see. I don't seek out people on Facebook that I do not speak to face to face. Facebook was interesting for a while, but then I got tired of seeing the same things over and over again. Another user surveyed said, I love Facebook. So in conclusion, the majority, at 80%, who had used Facebook before, were the same majority, 80%, that plan on using Facebook again. And to go back to that surprise before and after result, some of these comments show why people feel not as successful in terms of social communication after using Facebook. As one user states, I've made enemies. And another user states, I'm not a big fan, I find myself wasting time.